In this video, I will walk you through the steps that you would have to take to set up a warehouse in GTI. In this specific example, I will be setting up the Brazil warehouse in GTI, and it's worth pointing out that each warehouse can be different. We have several different warehouses that have already been set up in GTI, and usually they are not exactly the same in the way they are set up. So it will be impossible for me to go through all of the different scenarios. What I can do is simply show you how Brazil is set up. We have warehouses that operate with Snap. We have warehouses that don't operate with Snap. We have warehouses that use tote scanning for uology. We have warehouses that don't. We have New Jersey and Lehigh who have ship verification interconnected, and there are just certain things that you will have to know about the warehouse that you're setting up that will probably be different from this video. So for the purposes of this video, we will be setting up one specific warehouse, and that's Brazil. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to admin, we're going to go to warehouse setup, and we will click on add new warehouse. Warehouse identification, as you can see, I probably have little pop-ups for everything because I've already done this in QA to make sure I know how to do it. Warehouse identification is typically going to be the ISO, usually the 3-letter abbreviation of the country itself. For Brazil's case, it is BRA. The full name will be Brazil. The physical location is obviously not going to be the United States. It will be Brazil. Time zone, might have to look this up. I happen to already know that it will be America, Sao Paulo. And the countries, this is the countries that it will service, meaning the countries that the warehouse will service. In this case, Brazil is only going to service Brazil. We have other warehouses that service multiple countries, like we have a warehouse in the Netherlands that services several European countries. If that's the case, you would hold control and select multiple countries. The owner is going to be unique, and these two are going to be marked as no. We are going to hit add new warehouse, and the warehouse has been added successfully. I am also going to walk you through the other steps that are necessary in order to complete the entirety of setting up a warehouse. What we just did there, puts Brazil in GTI, and what we're going to do now is kind of fill in the gaps. So the country code is 3. The weight factor, so we know that Brazil uses kilograms, and the weight factor is going to be 2.2. Cutoff time is not heavily important in this warehouse. We're going to leave it at 13. Exception start date, we don't know for sure on that date yet, so we're going to leave it blank. Once we know the date that the warehouse is going to start, we will fill that in. Import behavior, export behavior, we will leave blank. Scan module, all of the rest of these things we will not fill in. So we always need to make sure that we're hitting update warehouse main data. And just to be sure, I believe I already hit it for this section, but I'm going to hit it again. And I'm going to hit it again for this one. And then these are just all sections that you can expand, which I'm going to do here. And we already filled that one out. We're going to go on to the WMS section, and this is going to be a simple WMS. We don't need to fill out these default receive and outbound locations. We also don't need to fill out, we actually don't need to fill out any of these fields. These are just optional fields, basically just to name like pick locations, return locations, and all of that. The only one that we need to worry about is this one. So we are going to update. All right, moving on to carriers. So as we were doing this, as I was going through this and just testing all of this out before making this video, I realized that this part is a little bit janky. It doesn't work exactly the way it should, so it might be a little confusing in this part of the video. So we need to set up 2 carriers for Brazil, and obviously you would come in already knowing what the carriers are that you need to set up, and we need to set them up, but we also need to link them. So what we need to do is we need to show add carrier form. We need to click right here, and one of them is Correios, or Correios, as I think that's how you pronounce it. That is a carrier that we don't have outside of Brazil, so it's a new carrier. We need to set it up, is what we're doing right now. So we need to type in the name. The service will be ground, and we're going to leave the service name blank. We're going to leave the shipper ID blank. Ship via translation will be blank, and this will be no. And we're going to add new carrier service. Now, as we scroll back down, this is the part that is a little bit weird, and we will look to fix it, but for the purposes of this video, it's still not quite the way it should be. You see how it says not set up for unique? What we're going to do is we're going to hit this red X and basically take it out. Then we're going to come back in, and we will find that it's in this list now because we set it up and then we had to take it out. Now we're linking it. We're going to leave this as no, and we're going to hit link carrier. If we come back down, we will see that Correios is linked as a carrier for the Brazilian warehouse. We have one more carrier to do, and it's actually, I was going to say it's actually already in the list, but it looks like it is not. So we're going to be doing the same exact thing. We're going to be clicking show add carrier form. We're going to do total express. The service will also be ground, and everything else will be blank, and this will be no. We're going to add it. As we come back down here, we see this message not set up for unique. So we're then going to take it off of the warehouse. I'm going to come back down. We will now find it in the list, and then we will link it. I hope that made sense. If it doesn't make sense, find me or someone on the team, and we can explain that. So now we have the 2 carriers for the Brazilian warehouse, and those are the only carriers that Brazil needs. So we are going to move on to services. In the service field, we are going to select Correios. For the service, it will be ground. For the export type, we're going to put in UPS. We can leave the name blank. Service type, we're going to put in standard, and export order will be 1. And we will add that service. We're going to add one more service, and this will be for Total Express. And we will repeat the same input fields. and then we're going to add that service. And like I said, these carriers and services are very specific to Brazil. If you are going to be setting up another warehouse, you would have to have the information for those carriers and those services. So we'll add service. So we've come all the way down here. We just finished services. Great Plains does not need to be filled out. Warehouse traits is our next big step. And these also are very unique to the warehouse that you're setting up. You will have to know what type of traits you already want, and they may not be the same as this video. First thing is cartonization enabled. We are going to put false. Next thing is ERP warehouse ID, which you will have to obtain from the ERP team. In this case, it should be 8 because our last warehouse ID was 7. So following that trend, this one should be 8. As we move on to adding more traits, we will start adding the remote transaction reason codes. These are reason codes that are used by the inventory team to input reasons why inventory has changed. So we are just going to put in the 3 or 4 letter abbreviations for each reason code. And again, you may be adding new reason codes, or you can look at previous warehouse reason codes and they should be the same. So I am just going to add in all the reason codes that I know of that are needed. Sorry. Takes a minute here. Last reason code. It's PIK. Okay. If you have all your warehouse traits inputted that you need, and there are no secondary warehouses, then you are good. Please obviously just double check when you are creating a warehouse in GTI that there are no secondary warehouses. It's usually not the case, but it could always be possible. For Brazil, there is not one. So there you have it. That is all you need to do in order to officially set up a warehouse in GTI.